Hello everyone, and welcome to Capitol Watch for Friday, April 13th, our weekly look at legislative news from Jefferson City. And joining us from our governmental relations offices in Jefferson City is MSBA's Associate Executive Director for Advocacy and our Chief Lobbyist, Mike Reed. And Mike, I guess the big news this week was the state budget, and it moved ahead on the Senate side, didn't it?
Yes, it did. The Senate Budget Committee passed out the budget. It's different from the version that the House sent over. It's a reduction in total of about $78 to $80 million. But on the education side, we're still very fortunate because the amount of money that is in the formula is the same as the House put in, $5,001. So we're very appreciative of that. There are some other changes that have been made. And it's going to be an interesting debate in the Senate to see what happens. It's kind of our understanding that the budget may not be discussed until next week, a week from now. And we'll see how they try to resolve the problems that are in there. There are some senators that we understand that have a number of amendments to try to reduce the budget even more. But it's a work in progress, but has to be finished by May 11th.
Mike, are you optimistic that that increase in the foundation formula will stay in the Senate budget?
I think we need to call it cautiously optimistic. Yes, the House and the Senate both agreed that that should be the figure, and so I believe it will stay. I think there will be some other changes in the budget, but we are cautiously optimistic at this point.
Other money news this week, Mike, involved the governor's office, and the governor released some additional funding for education for this current year, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He released some of the money that he had withheld prior because of budget shortfalls. The money became available because of the people buying the massive number of tickets in Mega Millions recently. And so that shows what happens when people spend their money on the lottery. But this money will go into transportation and some other areas. And we really appreciate the governor letting this money go. When we get a little extra money and putting it back into education, that's really good because it's all about the kids.
There was also debate on the Senate side this week, Mike, on the bill that would expand charter schools in our state. Tell us about that.
Yes, the Senate charter school bill, sponsored by Senator Stouffer of Saline County, was debated and perfected on the Senate side. There are a lot of provisions in there that we had a lot to do with. This was a compromise piece of legislation. There is more accountability for charter schools. Charter school expansion in the state will come if a district is accredited. The only sponsor of a charter school will be the local school board. If it is provisionally accredited, the local school board or certain sponsors approved by DESE can sponsor a charter school, but only after the school has been provisionally accredited for 3 years. And in an unaccredited district, anyone can sponsor a charter school. But the most important thing about it is the accountability standards and holding charter schools much more accountable than they have been in the past.
Another issue, Mike, that has received a lot of attention in recent weeks deals with teacher tenure. And we talked about that a little bit on our program last week. And we expected some action on that this week, but really nothing happened, did it? But
no, nothing happened. The bill came up for a third reading on Thursday, and it was laid over. There was some question about where the votes are on that, and a couple of senators were absent on Thursday. So it would look to us that the vote count is very close on that piece of legislation. That's Senate Bill 806, and it increases tenure, the years that you have to teach to 10 years from 5 years to receive tenure. It's a very interesting piece of legislation and has garnered a lot of discussion here in Jefferson City. The teachers groups are working this bill very, very hard.
Another issue, Mike, that we've been following closely during the session has to do with some legislation that would provide essentially what's a voucher to some special education students. Tell us about where that is.
Yes, that's called Bryce's bill. It was introduced in the House. It was killed in House Rules a couple of weeks ago. It did not receive the votes to get out of House Rules. There were some very interesting actions by the chairman of the House Rules Committee, and the bill came out of House Rules yesterday. It will probably be debated in the next couple of weeks on the in the House. We're going to work very hard to defeat this piece of legislation, while the end idea is to help children with autism by use of tuition tax credits is not the best way to do it. This again is a program to put taxpayers' money in the hands of private individuals, and it's a piece of legislation that we will work to defeat.
Another bill that contains a voucher provision, Mike, is one that we've been monitoring for quite some time now, House Bill 1740. An omnibus bill, contains all kinds of provisions. We've been expecting it to move, but it's just still sitting there, isn't it?
It's still sitting in rules and did not come out of rules on Thursday, and it's still just sitting there. It would appear to us that the leadership of the House understands that they do not have the votes to pass that piece of legislation, and that's thanks to the hard work of our members who contacted their representatives to tell them that this is a bad piece of legislation and needs to be defeated. So when the leadership counted votes, I think they see that it probably does not have the votes to pass, and for that we thank our members.
Well, Mike, we're really heading into the home stretch of the legislative session, just a few weeks left now. What are we looking at as far as issues that you see may be dealt with here in the coming weeks?
Well, the charter school bill will go be third read in the Senate and go back to the House, and that will be going through. There are some other bills, of course, the budget. We have not seen the last of the passport scholarship bills that are out there, and I think we'll see some more of that. The House will try to put that piece on several pieces of legislation. There's a bill dealing with special education due process hearings. I think you'll see that going through, and at least a lot of discussion about that. There are some bills dealing with how assessors value various pieces of property. We're looking and monitoring that very closely to make sure that we are not hurt in that part. There's just a lot of bills flying right now, and it gets as the time gets closer, the time crunch comes, there are more and more pieces of legislation passing back and forth and putting on amendments, etc. So it's going to be a busy time, and our members are going to need to watch their emails because they will start coming fast and furious, I'm sure.
All right, Mike Reed, thanks a lot for being with us, as always, on our Capitol Watch program. And as Mike mentioned, we will be keeping you up to date during the final weeks of the legislative session through our Legislative Voice weekly newsletter that you receive via email, our daily blog on the website, as well as this program. Thanks for being with us, and we hope you can join us again next week for another edition of MSBA's Capitol Watch.